Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Neil Toner. I'm a workstream lead from Health Innovation Yorkshire and Humber. As V said, we're formerly known as the Academic Health Science Network, but we were rebranded in October of last year, so now the Health Innovation Network. And today I'm here to introduce what we do to help innovators progress in the NHS with adoption, and then my colleague Tim will cover off his section around engagement with the NHS. So, brief overview for those of you who don't know much about the Health Innovation Network. So there's 15 across England, set up by NHS, NHS England about 10 years ago as the key innovation arm of the NHS. So we're there to help spread and adoption of new innovation, support national programmes, and support innovators as well. So whilst you might be talking to the Yorkshire and Humber network, you're actually then able to engage with the wider network across England. So we've got three key aims, and that's to improve the health of patients in our region, drive economic growth, and also save money in health and social care as well. And the key part that myself and Tim and the wider team focus on is that economic growth and supporting innovators and trying to generate investment into the region for SMEs. And that's because we're commissioned by the Office of Life Science. So our goals are more economic driven, but also connected very much to the health of the region as well. The makeup of our team is focused across these three key themes. So our team is the Enterprise and Innovation team, and we focus on supporting SMEs. So we have an open door policy for any innovator at any stage to register with us and have a call with one of our project managers to understand what their needs are. And then try and help them with signposting, advice and other support to try and help with their engagement with the NHS in our region. We're able to do that because we've got connections into the wider team within the Health Innovation Network. So we have a delivery team who are working on projects with the NHS in Yorkshire. So, for example, the virtual wards team, workforce and remote monitoring. So they're working on projects on the ground with staff in the NHS. And that might be at a trust level or Health Education England level, and we're then able to utilise their networks into the healthcare system to get understanding of what the priorities are, what the needs are within the system, and then able to communicate that out to innovators as well, so they can better understand how to approach the NHS in future. We also have members of our team embedded within the ICBs in our region, so both in West Yorkshire, South Yorkshire, and Humber. And these are members of the team who are embedded in innovation hubs, working with the ICB on their priorities around the strategic direction that the ICB are working on, but also how they can start to embed innovation into all that activity as well. So all that work with the NHS then helps to inform our team about how we can provide a better service to innovators starting their journey with the NHS. This is a quick overview of the footprint in Yorkshire and what we're working with. So the three ICBs there on the map, over £12 billion worth of annual investment in the NHS, the three integrated care systems, 6 teaching hospital trusts, nearly 800 GP practices. So we've got a huge ecosystem there that we engage with, and now we're starting to work with local authorities and social care to see how we can work across the health and social care network as well. We measure all the impact of what we do as well. So in our team alone, last year we engaged with over 380 innovators. And that's not just an email exchange, that's at least a triage call with members of our team, and that can then turn into long-term relationships, with the 7 of which we've had strategic partnerships with. And that's where we might have worked on multiple grant bids with companies in the NHS in our region, actual project delivery as well with our delivery team, and then for evidence generation as well. We don't do all this on our own, so we're very lucky in Yorkshire that we've got some amazing assets that we're able to draw upon, some of which you will have heard about today already. But we're obviously very lucky to have the NIHR teams based here that we work very closely with. We've got the amazing Nexus building up at the University of Leeds, and also 3M Buckley in Huddersfield. We've got accelerator programs in Sheffield and the Sheffield Olympic Legacy Park as well, which is a huge development over the next few years. And then we work very closely with those national funders as well, who again you will have heard about from some of the innovators just speaking earlier around their SBRI bids and Innovate UK bids. And just currently we're actually surveying all the innovators that we've worked with for the end of the year reporting, and we're just recently seen that over £10 million worth of investment has been leveraged by the innovators that we've spoken to just in this financial year. So the kind of support we can provide any innovator ranges depends on the needs of that actual SME or that innovator. So the initial assessment is that triage and understanding what their needs are. Where do they need help and support? Where can we provide them with guidance, introductions to other organisations, and other signposting? But then over time, that might develop into more in-depth support. So giving them real analysis of the value proposition and making sure that it aligns with the needs of the system. Perhaps they might have a project in the region that's starting to garner success. So we actually have a small pot of money for real-world evaluation, where the health economics and impact of that project can actually be measured and reported. And therefore, they can use that for going forward for business cases and other activity with the NHS. And all this activity really depends on the needs of the individual. So we don't have a one-size-fits-all, and we're able to utilise the skills and background of all the different people within our team. So myself and Tim have both worked for digital health businesses before. Other colleagues have worked in health research. One of our other colleagues, Sophie, she's assessed and reviewed probably tens or maybe even hundreds of bids for SBRI and NIHR funding. So she has real expertise in putting on a good bid for those funding bids. So she's able to support with that side of things. We've also got a wealth of resources that are free to use by anyone. So we have an innovation pathway online where you're able to click on different parts of the innovation pathway and then read more about the kind of things to consider in terms of that, starting at the beginning with the kind of ideation all the way through to implementation and spread and adoption. We also have a funding bulletin that we release every month. That's where we collate all the funding opportunities and publish them online. You can either sign up to the newsletter or read it on our website. And that then allows you to easily summarise all the opportunities there might be for grant funding and then look to explore how to apply for that. We also provide a service to the NHS as well, and by engaging with us, then you would then have access to that. So each year we provide Horizon Scan documents for the NHS where they come to us with a particular need. For example, recently the Cancer Alliance came to us asking about clinical decision support tools. We were able to utilise our innovation pipeline to then supply them with a document that provides them an overview of that innovation. And then potentially that might move on to a workshop or an innovation showcase where we bring together some of the innovators in that Horizon Scan to showcase themselves to the NHS stakeholders. Again, as I mentioned, we're able to support real-world evaluations and work very closely with innovators and the NHS on funding applications. So this image sort of illustrates the activity that we do. So we're engaging every year with over 350 innovators. We're then able to utilise that innovation pipeline with the NHS engagement that we carry out. And we hope that from working on horizon scanning and then moving on to workshops and innovation exchange events, the NHS will then start to find opportunities for projects and procurements. And then ultimately that we're able to then review those and evaluate those with case studies for spread and adoption. And then ultimately to use all that intelligence in the middle to then communicate better to industry so they're able to understand what the needs of the system are and how best to engage with the NHS. We also run an accelerator program that was referenced actually early by one of the innovators, our Propel program. That's a 6-month program for early stage innovators to go through a series of workshops, masterclasses, and networking events. Oh, it's gone back. Supported by some key partners. And that's there to accelerate innovators' understanding both as a business, but also their engagement to work with the NHS as well. And we're actually just run our 5th version of that, 5th year of that, and we'll be hoping to run that again next year as well. So if you're an early stage innovator, why would you engage with us? Well, ultimately, we're commissioned to help you. So that's one of our key drivers, is to support innovators. And we're able to do that with advice and support and utilizing our network. So whilst we might not have the answer, we will know someone who does, and we're able to provide that introduction to allow you to easily navigate the system. We've got that ready-made network, and we've done this many times before with other innovators, so we're able to utilize that experience to help you. And we can be an advocate for you as well. So those innovators who engage with us regularly are able to then, we're able to better understand where they're getting success, and we're able to help them communicate that with the wider system. And our goal is about spread and adoption of innovation, which isn't easy, but that's one of our key drivers, and therefore by engaging with us, we're able to help you with your own spread and adoption. And also, we're part of a wider network across England. So whilst the connection or the opportunity might not lie initially in Yorkshire, we're able to perhaps introduce you to a connection in Newcastle, Birmingham, or somewhere else in England to help drive your project. So that's my section. I'll now hand over to Tim.
Get your clap. Thanks. Hi everyone. So I'm not sure if this is the graveyard shift or the warm-up to the next session. Hopefully it's the warm-up. So as the slide is being put up, as it'll suggest, my name's Tim East. I'm the workstream lead. I look after our accelerator programs and our international work. Work for Health Innovation Yorkshire and Humber. That's the organisation. That's me. That's my role. And Propel at YH is the portfolio of accelerator programs which I look after. So just a quick nod to how we support innovation. So we've mentioned our accelerator program called Propel. It's been running for 5 years. It's based out of Leeds. It's good to see some of the cohort here. So Grant from my notes. So we support early stage spin-out innovators enter the UK NHS market. We also have an international offering, so where we bring high-quality technology into Leeds and support them with their journey as well. We support raising funding for the innovators to move forward. The byproduct of that is creating jobs, and we invest heavily in the Leeds and Yorkshire region. So that's our programme. So this is on a page, in theory, the innovator's roadmap. So you start off with the left-hand side, you've got an idea, you form it, you develop it, you move it forward, you provide evidence, and then eventually you get to the right-hand side of the screen, and on page it looks fairly straightforward. Actually, it's a lot more complex than that, and it's a lot more difficult. And actually, what you are doing is you're running multiple roadmaps at the same time. So you're not just dealing with one thing, you're dealing with multiple things. And that's why it's really difficult as an early stage entrepreneur, dealing with all these things. It's really difficult. But if you identify these and put them on a roadmap, then it makes sense of it. And all these things are not static, they're constantly moving. So your research is moving forward, your engagement, your governance, your evidence and evaluation. And all this is contributing eventually to your organisational growth. So, yeah, there's loads of roadmaps out there. The key one is making sure that you've got one and it's covering off all these different areas at the same time, which is not easy. So we thought we'd give you 10 top tips for innovators. And this is based on feedback from our programs, feedback from innovators, from the NHS, etc. So the first one is, who is actually using your product? So thinking about the end user. Now, if you start off at the top level, if you're primary care, secondary care, community, etc., it's fairly straightforward. And then you dig into, is it based on a disease register? Is it a speciality? What is that speciality? And then when you drop down a further level, an organisational based level, do the organisations work the same? Well, the chances are they don't. So it's getting an understanding of who is actually the user. If you've got digital technology or device technology, it would be straightforward, but you need to think about the hidden users. So is someone administering your product? Who looks after it? Who's actually using it day in, day out? And you can get a lot of insight from users. So, one day spent with an end user is probably worth a month in the office. So, get a good understanding of who uses your product. Number 9, understand the pathway. So, we talk about pathways in terms of where does your product or service sit in the pathway. Okay? So, where does it sit in the pathway? What happens in that pathway beforehand and afterwards as well, even if you're focused on one key area? Are you complementing it? So are you making it better? Are you making it faster? Are you replacing part of it? Are you disrupting it? Okay, so having that real understanding of how it works. And the impact of the pathway upstream and downstream. So if you improve one part, what's the impact of that upstream and downstream? What systems do they currently use? So integration will be a key factor to make sure that pathway works as smoothly as possible. And how are you going to implement your solution into that pathway? Because, the people working on that level will be wanting that comfort that this is going to make life easier for them. Okay, number 8, get your team in place. So entrepreneurs, early stage entrepreneurs, it can be very lonely, especially if you're a single founder. Some innovators get partners, mentors that can support them with their journey. You may be coming from the NHS sector, so you've got really strong clinical representation. You need to couple that with business guidance knowledge as well. Or you may be coming from the business sector, in which case you definitely need a clinical champion. Early stage, you probably won't have the luxury of specific roles. So there's ways of addressing that, like having things like operation managers that will do a bit of demonstrating, delivery, account management, the growth part of your organization. And you may do things like marketing, finance outside your organization and just use that as you need it. Number 7, commercials. What is your cost model? How much does your product cost? What is your cost model? Is it software as a service? Is it user-based? Is it transactional-based? If it's transactional-based, can you actually report on that so you can get paid for it? Okay? How would you have a cost model that's scalable? So that if you get the advantage of things moving forward, then your cost model follows that. What's the cost of other people's products that are in a similar place? So competitors. Okay, so getting a good understanding of competitor costs. What's your profit margin? So how much are you going to make? You're a business, so you need to make money to reinvest. And what are the costs for keeping the lights on? So all the things that happen without which will need funding. And how are you going to scale up if you get an opportunity to scale up? Okay? So commercials, key 1. Number 6, planning for investment. Okay, so you've got a certain roadmap of funding investment. So you need to ensure that how is your organisation going to be funded for the next, say, 3 years, 5 years. We've already seen from the previous presentations that it takes a long time to get traction in the NHS. So how are you going to fund yourself? If it's friends and family, early stage investment, then that's great, that'll get you so far. But you really need to be thinking about how does the investment work in the next 2 to 3 years. And raising funds can take quite a lot of time, it's time consuming, takes a lot of effort, and I think you need to make sure that you get the right investor if you go for private investment. So making sure that the investor is right for you and not the other way around. Okay, 5, understanding the competition. Who is your competitor? So if you don't have a competition, that's great, but the chances are there'll be someone looking at what you're doing, seeing it as innovative, and then moving forward or potentially competing. So definitely keep an eye on competitors, understand of what your unique selling point is, yours set against others, how do you stack up against them, and how do you need to review this on a regular basis. If you're on a commercial framework, then that's a really good way of getting insight from competitors. And just be careful of new entrants and disruptors to the market. I'm sure intellectual property rights been discussed over the last 2 days. And LinkedIn's a really good resource for knowing what your competitors are doing, because people like to tell a good news story. Evidence and evaluation. Have a roadmap for evidence and evaluation. Early stage evidence can be speculative. It'll still hold value. And then you will build your evidence case as you move forward. And I'm sure it's been discussed, that's your value into the NHS. And you can use it as a lever to support your business case. So yeah, evidence evaluation, I'm sure it's been discussed over the last 2 days. Something to be aware of is the annual buy-in cycle for the NHS, and this is generically speaking, okay, so there will be some variations around this. But just being aware of the NHS annual buy-in cycle, okay? So, certain part of the year they're doing delivery, planning, closing for the next year. Okay, this time of year, we mainly worked in primary care. It was common for the NHS to come to us and say, we've found some funding, how do we spend it? You know, what have you got value add side? So be prepared for that. Might not be applicable for every sector, but you do see this. Yeah, being aware, being prepared for opportunities at the end of year spend. Okay, to governance, we've already, I think it was Graham mentioned, he's got his governance roadmap. That's really good. So this would be unique to your sector, your product, and what you're providing, but have a roadmap for this. If you're digital, then you need to have a clear understanding of DTAC, clinical safety, cyber essentials, all that good stuff. If you're early stage, then it will take you a while to achieve that. So again, if you put it on a roadmap and show interested stakeholders that, then that's fine, as long as you can talk about it and you've got it on as a plan. Clinical safety officer are key, especially for digital technology, and have a copy of all your governance that's customer or NHS facing, so that you can be proactive and share this with them. And when you do get a project, obviously you need to ask, how does the assurance work? Who needs to sign things off? When does it need to happen? Does that group meet how frequently? Because there can be stumbling blocks when you start trying to deploy into the NHS. Okay, the first, number one is be prepared for opportunities. So yeah, it's amazing how many times innovators get a call or opportunity and it surprises them a bit. So if you're prepared for this, so you have your governance set up, you have your costings, you've got your delivery, you've got your project management, it's all there. Be prepared for that, so that if an organisation comes to you with an opportunity, you're ready to run with it. It's common in those scenarios as well that you may need to input into the business case. We hear stories of actually the template being sent to the innovator and they complete it just to raise the funding. So any way that you can help that organisation, that'll help. Especially around flexibility, payment regimes, milestones, that type of thing. And have supporting organisations warmed up. So if you want to do some evidence and evaluation, you've already had the conversation with that organisation. If someone's going to be delivering your product into the NHS, then they've got awareness that that's coming. So again, it's just making life easier for opportunities. So I hope you found those useful. Obviously, they're just feedback-based, what we got on our programme. So I think that's the end of our session, V. So